Hello there, this is L24 World News, streamed live from the capital Algiers, and coming up next in our news program. North Korea fires missiles over Japan, prompting warnings for residents to shelter. The upper house of Russia's parliament voted on to approve the integration of 4 Ukrainian regions into Russia. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has accused the US and the Zionist entity of masterminding anti-regime protests, prompted by the death in police custody of a young woman. Following the Indonesia stadium accident, 9 police officers were suspended with 32 children among 174 fatalities. First, in our topical news, Japanese and South Korean officials said Tuesday that North Korea launched a suspect intermediate-range ballistic missile over Japan, the first North Korean projectile to pass through Japanese airspace since 2017. Nabil Khazini.
A sound of danger hinting of a morning of insecurity. Immediately, the streets of the Japanese capital, Tokyo, broadcasted the alarming news. North Korea launched a suspected intermediate-range ballistic missile over Japan, the first to pass through the Japanese airspace since 2017, and enough to scare people in Tokyo.
This time the missile pass and alert were issued for the southern island of Tokyo and Hokkaido. The activation of the alert system really made me realize that the danger is real and that it is not far from me.
Authorities in Japan strongly condemned the move by Pyongyang, saying it would examine all options, including counterattack capabilities.
North Korea has fired a ballistic missile. It flew over our country, and we believe it fell in the Pacific Ocean. It's another barbaric action again after the repeated ballistic missile launches, and we strongly condemn this.
Never without doubt has a North Korean missile flown so high and that far. Neighboring South Korea says the ballistic device launched by Pyongyang on the 2 last nights in the direction of Japan would have reached an altitude of 970 kilometers and traveled approximately 4,500 kilometers, then crashed into the Pacific Ocean after flying over the Japanese island of Hokkaido, which forced Tokyo to activate its G-alert warning system in order to shelter the population.
I live in an apartment, so I don't have a basement. So when they said to take cover underground, my honest reaction was, I really don't know what to do.
A law passed by Pyongyang makes the nuclear program irreversible and authorizes an atomic strike if a foreign power were to threaten North Korea.
To Russia-Ukraine fight, Kremlin claimed its special military operation in Ukraine will not end if Kiev rules out talks, adding that it takes 2 sides to negotiate. As Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov reported that they will either wait for the current president to change his position or wait for the next president also to change his position in the interest of the Ukrainian people. The upper house of Russia's parliament voted on Tuesday to approve the integration of the Donbass, Kherson and Zaporizhia into Russia, as Moscow sets about formally annexing the 4 regions. This follows a similar vote in the state of Duma, Russia's lower house, yesterday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that his country's forces have made a noteworthy advances in the eastern region of Ukrainian territory, mainly in Kherson region, which is seeing fierce confrontations between Ukrainian army and the Russian forces. Osama Yadi.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that Ukraine's army was pressing on with its advances against Russian forces and had liberated new towns in a number of areas, but gave no further details.
наступальний рух.
Today, the offensive movement of our army and all our defenders continued. There are new liberated settlements in several regions. Fierce fighting continues in many areas of the front.
Ukrainian forces achieved their biggest breakthrough in the country's south since the war began, bursting through Russian defenses and advancing rapidly along the Dnipro River, threatening supply lines for thousands of Russian troops. In the sign, Ukraine is building momentum on two fronts. 300 kilometers to the northeast as columns of Ukrainian troop vehicles headed to reinforce Rail Hub Lyman, retaken at the weekend, and a staging post to press into the Donbass region.
At the same time, everything is being done quite intensively at various government levels to restore normal life in the areas liberated from the occupiers. In total, there are more than 4,500 settlements in the Kharkiv region alone, which were liberated thanks to the defense operation.
Kyiv gave little information about the gains in the south, but Ukrainian troops had advanced dozens of kilometers along the river's west bank, recapturing a number of villages along the way. The advance is targeting supply lines for as many as 25,000 Russian troops on the west bank of Dnipro. Ukraine has already destroyed the main bridges, forcing Russian forces to use makeshift crossings, as a substantial advance downriver could cut them off entirely.
The Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov said Monday he would send his teenage sons, including his 14-year-old son Adam, to fight in Ukraine. Kadyrov posted a video on his social media account of his children firing weapons. He wrote that they soon will be on the most difficult sections of the contact line. To a different matter now, British Prime Minister Liz Truss said on Tuesday the government was looking at long-term energy contracts with other countries, but they had not yet signed any contracts.
Well, what I have said is, first of all, we will move forward on our own energy security. So that's more renewables here in the UK, it's more nuclear power here in the UK, and it's also moving forward faster with using North Sea facilities. But we are looking at long-term energy contracts with other countries because, as well as making sure we've got a good price,
British Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng has made a U-turn on plans to scrap the 45% rate of income tax for high earners. The minister said that the proposal had become a massive distraction on what was a strong package. The U-turn comes after the government's fiscal plans triggered the crisis of investor confidence.
Talk to people, we listen to people, I get it. We not only talked to people, we saw people's reactions, we were talking to constituents, we were talking to a whole range of stakeholders, and we felt that the 45p issue, the 45p rate, was drowning out a strong package of intervention on energy, a strong package of intervention on tax cuts for people generally, and we decided not to proceed with getting rid of the 45p rate. We're 100% focused on the growth plan. And I've been in Parliament 12 years. There have been lots of policies which, when government listens to people, they've decided to change their mind.
And from UK to US, the American President Joe Biden visited Puerto Rico to survey the damage from Hurricane Fiona. During his visit, vowed the US government will not abandon Puerto Rico as it sought to rebuild again, 5 years after a more powerful Hurricane Maria devastated the island in 2017.
Through these disasters, so many people have been displaced from their homes, lost their jobs and savings, or suffered injuries, often unseen, but many times seen. Yet somehow, the people of Puerto Rico keep getting back up with resilience and determination. Quite frankly, it's pretty extraordinary when you look at it from afar. And you deserve every bit of help your country can give you. That's what I'm determined to do, and that's what I promise you. After Maria, Congress approved billions of dollars for Puerto Rico, much of it not having gotten here initially. We're going to make sure you get every single dollar promised. And I'm determined to help Puerto Rico build faster than in the past and stronger and better prepared for the future.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the world on Monday to take action at the next COP27 summit to prevent climate disasters and save the human species.
While climate chaos gallops ahead, climate action has stalled. COP27 is critical, but we have a long way to go. Let's be clear, the collective commitments of G20 governments are coming far too little and far too late. The actions of the wealthiest developed and the emerging economies simply don't add up.
The National Prison Agency in Ecuador announced the death of at least 15 prisoners who were killed at a prison in Ecuador city of Latacunga, adding another 21 were injured in the latest incident of deadly jail violence in the Andean country. According to Coronel, 14 of the 21 injured people have been evacuated to hospitals in the city of Latacunga. Police in Haiti fired tear gas into crowds as thousands marched on the streets to protest against the government of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. The day's school year was set to begin amid crippling national shortages. Crowds have been blocking the country's main fuel port in protest of a fuel prices hike. Henry announced last month, and the resulting shortages have forced hospitals to close the scale down, shutter transport, and ground daily activities to halt.
I'm on the street for 4 reasons. First, we're here because of the misery, because of the hunger we endure. Second, Ariel Henry has no dignity. He cannot rule the country. Third, we are in charge of the streets. It is up to us to decide when classes can begin again. Ariel does not have the dignity to open the schools. We will open the schools and Ariel must leave.
9 Indonesian police officers were suspended and others were under investigation of a stadium stampede that killed 174 people, including dozens of children, and injured 323 others. The chief of police of the Indonesian province of Eastern Java, where a deadly stampede took place, apologized on Tuesday on what is marked as one of the deadliest disasters in football history.
As chief of the regional police, I am concerned, saddened, and at the same time I'm sorry for the shortcomings in the security system. In the future, we will jointly evaluate the process with the organizer, the league committee, and the Indonesian Football Federation. We hope to be able to host safe and practical football matches that will also boost our economy. In addition, we will apply the law to anyone found guilty, especially officers, after the ongoing humanitarian process.
Iran's supreme leader breaks the silence after weeks of protest against the death of Mahsa Amini, or rather Masha Amini, whereas Western leaders impose sanctions on the country. Miriam Zian on this story.
A historic protest movement is entering its 3rd week in Iran as Ayatollah al-Khamenei talks about it for the first time since the beginning of the revolt. Iran's supreme leader blamed the unrest in the Islamic Republic on foreign powers, including the US and Israel.
I say clearly that these riots and insecurity are the work of America, the Zionist regime usurper and their agents, with the help of some treacherous Iranians abroad.
The West, for its part, imposed sanctions on Tehran. Biden vowed to impose further costs on Iran after crackdown on peaceful protesters, and the UK summoned a high-ranking diplomat to speak on the matter. The death of Mahsa Amini fell into a coma after she was arrested by members of Iran's morality police, allegedly for violating the country's dress code, provoked mass protests in Iran and all over the world, with women removing, burning their headscarves and cutting their hair. Despite the death toll reaching 92 in the weeks-long protests in Iran, rallies showed no sign of stopping, including on university campuses in nearly half a dozen cities. Ayatollah al-Khomeini gave his full support to security forces confronting protests ignited by the death of Mahsa Amini in custody, as Iranian authorities have reported many members of the security forces killed during the unrest. The ongoing protests in Iran and Western sanctions on the country could further halt the long-awaited nuclear deal.
Lebanese officials must to decide on a response to an American proposal to demarcate the maritime border with the Zionist entity, which would allow the two countries to exploit important gas credits in the eastern Mediterranean. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati said that the country will have a ready answer for the U.S. negotiator on this issue.
Prior to this meeting, the technical committee held its own meeting and took into consideration all the commands that I and Parliament President Nabih Berri had made. We will be preparing a response to the U.S. negotiator on that.
Especially involved for the West African bloc, ECOWAS has planned a visit to Burkina Faso after the military coup which overthrew Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandoku Dambia, who fled to Togo. The team is led by Guinea-Bissau's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Swiss Carla Barbasa, and includes former Nigerian President, a bloc mediator on Burkina Faso. ECOWAS issued a statement welcoming the peaceful settlement of disagreements and announced it would send the delegation to Ouagadougou on Monday. At least 20 people dead and 36 others injured after two explosions target a local government headquarters in the capital of Somalia's Hiran region. Group of Shabab claimed responsibility for the attack. According to Hiran governor, two officials were among the dead, including the health minister of Hezbollah state and the deputy governor of Iran in charge of finance.
We do not cry or scream, but we will take revenge upon you. We will not be intimidated by this, and we will not stay away from our battle against the terrorists. We will fight until the end, until we defeat you.
An independent investigation released on Monday showed abuse and misconduct had become systematic in the U.S. top-flight National Women's Soccer League, and that the league the teams and the governing U.S. soccer body failed to adequately protect players. The NWSL was forced into racking a year ago. A report from The Athletic outlined allegations of sexual abuse by former North Carolina Courage head coach Paul Riley. And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup by Islam Seed.
Cuba had restored power to most of Havana by Monday, diffusing tension in the capital after protests erupted last week over power grid that was knocked out by Hurricane Ian.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Monday they discussed stepping up the interception of narcotics at sea and enhanced intelligence sharing on drug trafficking.
Chile's President Gabriel Boric announced on Saturday the creation of the new desert blooming national park in the Atacama region and will become the 44th national park in Chile to protect the area and boost tourism.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump sued CNN for defamation and seeks $475 million in punitive damages, and claiming that the network used its considerable influence as a leading news organization to defeat him politically.
Elon Musk asked Twitter users to contribute on a plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine that drew immediate condemnation from Ukrainians, including President Volodymyr Zelensky, who responded with his own poll offering two responses, one who supports Ukraine, one who supports Russia. Musk responded by saying that Russia leaves if that is the will of the people.
Eurozone finance ministers pledged on Monday that national finance shields against soaring energy costs would be coordinated, temporary and targeted so as not to trigger a wage price spiral that would boost already record inflation.
Due to the conditions of the World Cup in Qatar, Paris will not broadcast games from the tournament on large screens, according to the city's current deputy mayor for sports, who spoke to the AFP on Monday. In 2020, 50 migrant workers died in Qatar, according to a study by the UN's International Labour Organization, and 500 more had serious injuries. Many French cities have said that they will not show games in public spaces, with Marseille's socialist mayor calling the competition a human and environmental tragedy. Qatar authorities, on the other side, said that they have only 3 deaths have been recorded. Environment Minister Tanya Pilbersk said Australia will target to have 0 new extractions, or rather extractions, in a bid to protect plants and animals on the island continent famed for species found nowhere else in the world. To announce coincides the World Animal Day, which celebrated on the 4th of October each year.
Our Threatened Species Action Plan is an ambitious and a specific plan to stop further extinctions in Australia. We learnt from the State of the Environment report, which I released some months ago, that the state of the Australian environment is bad and getting worse. We are the mammal extinction capital of the world. We've seen around 100 species lost in the time since colonisation, and we absolutely have to turn that around.
To this end, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a reminder for our main top stories. North Korea fires missiles over Japan, prompting warnings for residents to shelter. The upper house of Russia's parliament voted on to approve the integration of 4 Ukrainian regions into Russia. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has accused the US and the Zionist entity of masterminding anti-regime protests, prompted by the death in police custody of a young woman. Following the Indonesia stadium accident, 9 police officers were suspended, with 32 children among 174 fatalities. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. Bye bye for now.